I just got an order for a Piere Lomont violin. I better go and set it up quickly.
Dad!
I'm just filming.
Don't wear that t-shirt, Dad. Wear this one.
Oh my god, that's awesome. Cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Alright.
That's much better.
What a great shirt. Look at that. My daughter made that for me. Anyway, back to filming. So I got this online order for the Piere Lomont violin, so I'm going to go and set it up. I've been at this location for over 25 years now. I'm always looking for the best possible instruments for my clients. The problem I've had is that I've been getting my instruments from suppliers and wholesalers in Australia, but these suppliers weren't violin makers. So they would go to China and Europe and source instruments, and then they picked the ones they thought would be best and came back. But the problem is they're not string players, nor are they violin makers. So the understanding of the instrument, of the maker, of the quality just isn't quite there. They were good instruments. I found some good instruments, but I never found instruments that I was 100% happy with. So a few years ago, I actually went over and I connected with a few people in China and found some nice instruments. So I basically looked at the work of over 200 different makers, and I can tell you that there was a lot of rubbish. There were some good instruments, but there were a lot of instruments that I just wouldn't go anywhere near. One workshop I went to basically manufactured 200 instruments per day with 40 workers. How crazy, like how can you make a quality instrument like that? But I did find one or two makers that were just amazing. Like these are small workshops. They make their own varnish. They cure it on the roof of their house. It's just beautiful. They have around 10 people working for them, and each maker has a lot of experience. They've had well over 20 years experience, and the makers that work for them have also had a lot of experience. So they end up making some really good instruments. They source good quality materials. One of the places I went to, they've just had a huge shipment of timber right from Europe, and they were so excited about it. So what was important to me is that the instrument is extremely well made, that they use good quality materials, and of course it has to sound good. Now the way they come to me, I personally think they're kind of unplayable. A lot of people would probably play them already, but it just needs that extra, that final master tweak. So things like planing the fingerboard, doing the pegs, a new bridge, soundpost, high quality European strings, and all those fine details. So they are the details that I take care of. And this is how my Piere Lomont violin came about. So these days I sell Piere Lomont violins on my website as well as in my shop. In fact, I have a Piere Lomont violin right here. Isn't this beautiful? Like, it's just amazing. And the varnish, like, it's slightly antiqued, so it doesn't look like a really new instrument. So they've built in these kind of worn looked areas. They didn't put too many bumps or scratches in. It just got a really beautiful look to it. But the order that came in was actually for a Piere Lomont Master. So I've selected a Piere Lomont Master, which is just beautiful. Have a look at this. Yeah, so this is the Piere Lomont Master that I selected. And the great thing is, on this one, my son has actually already fitted the pegs. So the pegs are working beautifully. Look like they're just turning really smoothly. I actually think he's a little bit more of a perfectionist than I am. Either that or he uses an incredible amount of peg paste. But the pegs are just turning beautifully. He's done such a good job. So normally I would be fitting the pegs. So on this instrument I don't need to do it, but I still need to plane the fingerboard. I also need to make a new bridge and soundpost, and then I need to do the final setup. So I'm just going to do that now if you want to watch in. The violin the player ordered is a Piere Lomont Master, so not a Piere Lomont. It's a little bit more expensive. I think it's about $2,800 or something like that. It uses better better materials, and the Piere Lomont has really beautiful pegs. Also, I sign the label, which I think is really nice, and it just sounds amazing. I just love the sound of this instrument. Look how beautiful it is. It's just so gorgeous. First thing I'm going to do is plane the fingerboard. First, I have to take the nut off. Got to make sure I protect the instrument, and I've got to make sure I don't get my t-shirt dirty. Better get my priorities right though and protect the instrument more. So the next step is sanding. That's looking really good. I use 5 different grades of sandpaper, each one finer than the last one. The roughest is about 100 and the finest is about 400 grade sandpaper. Okay, I'm up to the 400 grade sandpaper, which I no longer need to have the leather on here because that's really fine, and I actually use it with oil, so. Okay, the fingerboard is finished, so it's really beautiful. Now I've got to glue the nut back on. I heat the nut up so it glues quite quickly, and I don't glue it on very strongly because I need to be able to plane the fingerboard again. Okay, I'm ready for the bridge, but first I better clean up my workbench. Okay, the workbench is cleared, and it's time to fit a bridge. First I have to select a good quality bridge, and yes, not that one. I'm going to use a Despio 3-star bridge. I really like them. They're nice bridges. So my knife is really nice and sharp. So the time's come to fit this bridge. I've already done the rough fitting. So the biggest problem that I've found with instruments, a lot of instruments in this price class that people buy, is that they're firstly, there's some shortcomings in the way they're made, but then, quite often they don't even get set up properly. So, shops say they set up the instrument, but then, some things actually aren't correct. Like the fingerboard needs to have the right curvature. Pegs just need to work super smoothly, and I've come across instruments where that's just not the case. I mean, when you're learning your instrument, it's so hard to learn in the first place. Why make it harder for the player by not getting all these things right? So that's something I'm extremely fussy about, and so I have this master setup process that I use where I really make sure that everything's perfect, and it's something I guarantee as well. I want to make sure so the string height is exactly perfect, the string curvature is right, the string spacing is right, and everything just feels really nice on the instrument. And then of course it has to sound good, and that was the other thing that I had a real problem with when I was looking for instruments. There are a lot of makers that make beautiful boxes, they make beautiful instruments that look nice, but they're just not made that well. So working with these makers that I work with, so the Piere Lomont is an instrument that is basically designed by me, made for me, exactly to my specifications, by makers that I know are really good. It's just so important that an instrument is just made exactly right, and it's super important to me. So I'm so lucky to have these wonderful makers who work with me and they really want to make sure that everything's right. They're great to work with. So yeah, and I have these beautiful Piere Lomont instruments now, and they're such good value. Similar instrument made in Europe, you'd look at least $6,000 for the same kind of quality, possibly the same quality. And while, a lot of the tradition and the craft goes back to Europe, not everyone can afford $6,000. And that's why I'm just making absolutely sure that, that I have some good quality instruments that aren't that expensive. So the benefit when you have a well set up instrument is that it's so much easier to play. It's easier to do double stops. It's easier to make a good sound on the instrument. Just everything works so much better. Anyway, the bridge is pretty much fitted, so I'm gonna mark in the height now. So I do that just by looking down, and getting the height exactly right is the string height is super important. So for violins on the G, I usually go to around 5.5 millimeters. The end here on the E, it's 3.5 millimeters, and that just makes playing comfortable. I do have some clients that like it higher. It's very, very rare. And then I've got some clients that like the height a little bit lower. But you know, these heights actually work really nicely. So I'm marking that in, and then I'll cut that out. Then I have to thickness the bridge. So I'm just very roughly, it's just a lazy way of not sawing this. And then I use my rasp to just get this curvature right. So all the rough work is super easy, but then, you know, I've got to be much more careful with the finer work. Okay, there we go. Now I've got to get the thickness right, and then it's carving time. So I'll start on the thickness using a plane to get the thickness right. Just thicknessing the bridge. The bridge thickness is really important to the sound. You don't want to leave a bridge too thick or too thin. Sometimes people make bridges too thin and they can't actually transfer the sound vibration from the strings to the top plate. So there's this balance. Okay, so I'm now going to just carve the bridge. So I've got the right thickness, and that's again important. The owner's wife and a couple of other ladies were varnishing at the time, and they are so good at varnishing these instruments because they're you know, they're not looking, the look they're trying to get is not a you know, like a really freshly varnished new look. It's, you know, it's a slightly antique look with a bit of wearing, and so it's just really great to see them all yeah, making the instruments look amazing. They're definitely very good at varnishing. Seem to be quite a lot of banter. Like, I don't speak Chinese, but they definitely seem to be having a lot of fun at the same time. So over the years I've come up with my own unique bridge design. So it's sort of based on research and you know, things I learned from my father. I like to put, you know, my own individual kind of look to the bridge. What I like about it is actually has a bit more that feel of like an older bridge, you know, really like the 18th century bridges. You know, I was quite surprised when I saw Stradivarius's original bridges, you know, how different they look. And to me, they have a bit more of that kind of feel. Like I said before, a lot of makers make their bridges way too thin up the top here. Not necessarily ideal for the sound. Okay, fabulous. Now it's time to mark the string spacing. I don't need this. Yes, it's a joy of when I was younger, my eyesight was way better, so I use glasses so I can see well, and when I do really detailed stuff I have to do extra magnification. What's important to me is that the quality of my work is the same. Just sanding the bridge. Lovely. Okay, and then the second last step is to oil the bridge, and then I'll be putting on my stamp. Okay, it's time to put the label inside, so I've just got to sign the label. Okay, I've just signed straight through it. Now, so I just popped the label in the violin, so now it's just time to lower, adjust the nut, get that all right, and then it's time to put the strings on. It's very important getting the nut height right because you know, it's your first, second, third finger, you know, and it determines the string heights there, it determines the string feel under your fingers, so it's super important. And then the string spacing has to be 100% even. So go with 16 mils, which is standard. Occasionally I'll do slightly wider or slightly narrower for people with different size. This is the standard, so it'll work for most people. It's going to be such a beautiful instrument when it's finished. Really looking forward to hearing the first sounds. And then once that's done, I'm going to let the instrument rest over the weekend. Give it another try on Monday and just do the final adjustments. I think the player's picking the instrument up on Wednesday. Okay, so I'm just going to put the fine tuner on the tailpiece, and then that'll go on the instrument, and then it's string time. Let's see how long it takes me to put these strings on. That's always a fun thing. Okay, here we go. The trick is also, I might be doing this fast, but I'm also working on doing it neatly at the same time, so I wind them properly onto the peg. Make sure the bridge is straight. When I first started, I made the bridge fall over quite a few times. Luckily, When I first started, I wasn't allowed to work on expensive instruments. Okay, so I did that in just a little bit over 2 minutes, but the funny thing is I discovered that the soundpost was just a long way away from where it should really be, so I've got to get that sorted. Oh, it's quite a funny spot, really. Must have just slipped. So I'm just going to put the soundpost in the theoretic position, and then I'll allow the instrument to just settle in. And then once it's settled in, I'll move it into the, I'll tweak it a little bit. Okay, and I'm done. The violin is finished and set up. Now I'm still going to tweak it a little bit, so it's not at its very final stage. I spend a lot of time just perfecting everything, setting it up just perfect. I've still got to give it a little bit of a polish. Going to do a bit of, just check over the varnish, get the neck feel right and everything. So there's still a few little details to go, but this is roughly it. And I'm just going to have a try and see what it sounds like. Okay, let's have a try. Such a nice tone, and I think it's perfect. Like it's got that slightly richer, little bit deeper sound, which is just perfect if if you just enjoy playing violin and you love hearing yourself a little bit as well. I think the Piere Lomont is just absolutely stunning, and it's really good value. It's under 3,000 Australian dollars. Comes with a bow and case, and they're really nice as well, and it's literally, you're kind of ready to go. I've only got the one fine tuner on there, so if you need 4 fine tuners, you've got to let me know, because otherwise you'll just get it with one and you might get frustrated. For a lot of adult learners, I just recommend get a fine tuning tailpiece, and it just makes life a lot easier. This is the Pierre Lomont Master. I also have the Piere Lomont, which is, as an outfit, I think it's 2,100, or the Piere Lomont Master model. Absolutely beautiful. You can just get it on my website. Internationally, freight is free, which is great. Okay, so the client's going to come and pick up this instrument that I just set up. They're about to come, and so they ordered it online, and but because they're in Brisbane, they're actually going to pick it up. They only live like about 15 minutes away from here, but we actually send instruments all over the world. We use it, yeah, good thing. This is the violin. I've set it up. It's beautiful. Like I really, yeah. Comes with this case, comes with a good quality carbon fibre bow. So the carbon fibre bows, they're just really good value because they play as well as a lot of much more expensive bows. So I've come across like this carbon fibre. This is my Florial carbon fibre bow, and to me, I've tried some $700-800 Pernambuco bows, and this plays just as well, and sometimes even better.
Yeah. Well, finally I can start practicing more often.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Cheers.
Yeah, okay,
Thank
see
you
you later. So if you're thinking of buying an instrument, you've looked at my 7 essentials, the Piere Lomont Master literally ticks all the boxes for me. Personally, I also really love the instrument. I love the sound. They're really well made. Everything's right. I've set it up myself, and I think materials are great. It's made really well. I think you will really love this instrument if that's something you'd like to do. If you are thinking of something and you're quite happy to buy an instrument internationally, You know, I send all over the world. I've sent instruments to Europe, Asia, Americas, South and North America, all over Australia. I haven't sent any instruments to Antarctica yet. So if you're in the Antarctica, you're looking for an instrument, I have no idea I have no idea how to get it to you. I'm sorry. I don't know if freight could even be free. It might be. I might have to send a penguin or something. Anyway, if you like my videos, hit the like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so that you find out every time I post a new video. Anyway, see you guys. Bye.